Alright guys, welcome back to another great waiver wire video so I can help you find the best and most important players to add to your teams. And we got a big time prospect debut this week, some fun starting pitchers, some post-hype guys as well. I can't wait to get into it all, but before we get going quickly, if you're not already, please subscribe to the channel down below, drop the video a like, sound off in the comments. Channel memberships are open for personalized fantasy advice. And a big shout out to Prize Picks for sponsoring today's video. And just in case anybody's new here, this waiver wire video is a weekly segment on my channel. And it always starts out with the big list, which is a deep, dense player profile of 5 different players. Then after that, lots of breakout sections that can help you guys in any type of fantasy baseball league you play in, whether it be a deep league, whether it be a shallow league. I highlight closers, I highlight players you can stash, and of course I have players you can drop as well. So right there, anything you could possibly need to know about the week in fantasy baseball. And I want to start out the big list this week with Braden Montgomery, outfielder on the White Sox, who had an absolutely electric Major League debut this past week, hitting a walk-off home run against Raisel Iglesias and the Atlanta Braves. Just such an incredible moment to do that in your big league debut. That will get you to lead the big list, and he had a great encore the next day, smacking 2 doubles on the Wednesday. As of recording this video on Friday afternoon, those are the only 2 games that Braden Montgomery's played in his entire career, and he's just absolutely ripping the ball over these 2 games. I mean, of course, if you have a home run and 2 doubles, you're really hitting the ball well. I'm going to quickly flash his very 2-game small sample baseball savant page. I do not condone this. I do not condone even looking at this, taking any of this seriously. So I was even kind of dirty I'm showing it. But again, wanted to show it because it's funny in a small sample. But Montgomery's pedigree and profile says that this could be a very solid power speed threat right off the bat. Showing his different prospect rankings here, there has been some disagreement between Baseball America, MLB Pipeline, and Baseball Prospectus. Thank you for Baseball Reference for always showing us all these rankings together. And I think that disagreement comes from the fact that Montgomery has tons of tools, but also has potentially scary swing and miss. We also don't know where he's going to wind up as a defensive player. But in terms of fantasy baseball, the tools are very legit. Fangraphs has given him a 60 graded raw power. He has 113.9 max exit velocity this season at AAA. Some also solid exit velocities down there, but he's also only played 29 total games at AAA ever as a minor leaguer, so not the biggest sample size to really deduct anything about his exit velocities there. Also, if you just look at his entire 175 minor league career, he has 22 home runs to go along with 19 stolen bases, and that's only since being drafted 12th overall in 2024. Montgomery was drafted by the Red Sox, traded to the White Sox before ever playing a professional game as part of the Garrett Crochet trade that's already bred tons of very talented, possibly impact major leaguers. Really funny to look back on now. But he was called up by this White Sox team to be their every single day right fielder. I don't think they would have given him the promotion otherwise. And the fact that he performed this well in those 2 games, he has this kind of power and pedigree. I think there's a really good chance we see Braden Montgomery possibly sustain like a 20-20 pace for the rest of the season, possibly a bit more power than that. Bottom line, I love the talent. I love the tools. I love whatever's going on with this White Sox team right now. Braden Montgomery should be a priority add this week in fantasy baseball. Now, quickly, before we get to the next player in the big list, a word from today's sponsor. Prize Picks, America's #1 sports picks app. If you guys are not on Prize Picks yet, here's why you should be. Of course, the app is super simple. You just pick more or less on a few player stats, and that's it. You lock your lineup and you're in. There's no complicated strategies. There's no confusing interfaces. It really is just you, your sports knowledge, and your picks. And if you guys are like me, you are locked into the NBA Finals tonight. I have this great lineup ready to go, where I think the most consistent spur of this entire series is Dylan Harper. He's going to have more than 15.5 points, and then Jalen Brunson is going to be a finisher. He's going to be an assassin. More than 1.5 3-pointers, more than 27.5 points. And hopefully the Knicks get this thing done. There's also so many great MLB lineups to play every single day on Prize Picks. And if you guys want to follow along with the picks that I'm making on the app, you can check me out at my username right here. But the best part, if you're a new Prize Picks user, you can get $50 worth of lineup just for playing your first $5 lineup. All you have to do is download the Prize Picks app. You click the link in my description and do so as well, and you sign up with the promo code HMA. Click the link in the description, promo code HMA, play a $5 lineup, you get $50 worth of lineups. It's that easy. And Prize Picks is available in most states: California, Florida, Texas, New York. Let's go Knicks. So check it out. Use the code HMA, and please, guys, only play if you know you can do so responsibly. Next up on the big list is Ian Seymour, left-handed pitcher, just recently back in the rotation for the Tampa Bay Rays. Seymour was a favorite on this channel last year. I really love a crafty lefty who was very effective in his spurt as a major league starter, but he was shifted to the bullpen to start this season. Now he's gone back into the rotation to replace the struggling Steven Matz, who looked just terrible. And on Monday, Seymour made his first start back as a starter, going 4 innings, allowing 1 hit with 1 earned run, 1 walk, and 5 strikeouts against the Red Sox. He induced 9 swings and misses in that outing, and he got multiple swings and misses with each of his fastball, his sweeper, and his changeup. Also important to note, Seymour worked up to 55 pitches in that outing after throwing 40 in the previous outing and going at least 23 pitches in the 3 before that. So he has slowly been building up. So right here, in a week or two's time, he's going to be a quality starting pitcher with a full repertoire and good command. That's a player that I really want to be looking at deeply in 12-team leagues. Despite the fact that Seymour does have a bit of a weird profile and repertoire that I think makes him get overlooked in most circles, mainly the fact that he only sits between 91 and 92 miles per hour with his fastball. There are not many starting pitchers in Major League Baseball who are good with that, but the only ones who are left-handed pitchers, and one of the big reasons why I think Seymour can be successful is that he seemed to do a lot of work this offseason to dramatically change his fastball shape. This season, it has tons more vertical action on it, while he's also significantly lowered his arm slot. That pitch having better vert, it's living right now at the leathers for hitters and missing bats there in the process. That pitch with that shape, despite, again, only being about 91, 92 miles per hour, it only even got to 93 miles per hour when he was working as a reliever, it will keep that pitch effective. The next step here for Seymour, something that's new, because we're going to talk about what he's had in a second, he has a very new sweeper this season. This pitch has a completely different shape to the one he was throwing last year. Now having tons more horizontal action while having tons of vertical action. It's a lifty sweeper, something we don't see very often. The only other pitcher in the entire league with both more induced vertical break and more horizontal sweep on their sweeper than Seymour is Shawn Armstrong, relief pitcher from the Guardians. But really at the end of the day, very few pitchers get this level of lift on their sweeper. Some other pitchers get any lift on their sweeper. Christian Scott has a lifty sweeper. Paul Sewald has a lifty sweeper. Paul Skeens kind of has a lifty sweeper. Cooper Criswell has a lifty sweeper. But again, this is not a pitch we see that often across Major League Baseball. And again, this pitch is a bat misser against hitters from both sides of the plate with at least a 40% whiff rate against both lefties and righties so far this season. And with that, he was able to clear out a lot of the junk in his repertoire that he mixed around with last year. Again, it was a sweeper with more depth, it was a curveball, and it was a cutter. Now all of those pitches are out, and this sweeper has become a main put-away pitch for him. Past that, Seymour's always had a really nice changeup that misses bats, especially against righties. It's his primary pitch against them, and it's very effective. He also now has reworked his sinker, and that has genuine vertical separation from his four-seam fastball, while also playing really well off his changeup, which allows Seymour to use both of those pitches, which are usually a little bit less platoon neutral, against hitters from both sides of the plate, widening out his repertoire a little bit more than the average left-handed pitcher. All in all, I think this guy is perpetually underrated because of that low velocity. Now he's back in the Rays rotation full-time. They're just sensational with how they game plan with their starting pitchers. Tropicana is an amazing place to pitch, and I'm really intrigued by Ian Seymour in 12-team leagues. Next up might sound odd off the bat, but it's Jack Caglione, outfielder for the Royals. Caglione is someone who I think has gotten weirdly, perpetually underrated now, and I think maybe he was overrated, partially kind of my fault heading into the season. But looking at it, prepping this video, he's only 30% roster in ESPN leagues and 60% roster in Yahoo leagues. So I think it was worth throwing him in here because that's just way too many leagues for him to be available, especially because right now, look at the stats above. He's been highly productive this season. A 279 batting average and 808 OPS heading into play on Friday are each higher than his teammate Bobby Wood Jr. Right now, Jack Caglione has been the most consistent hitter on the Royals, which isn't saying much. The Royals are like the worst offensive team in the league, but I do think that we're seeing an indication that Caglione may be solving his bat path issue. Last season, Caglione made tons of hard contact, but he just couldn't lift the ball at all. So with all the hard contact he was making, it wasn't going anywhere because it was just on the ground. So it wasn't really leading to much production, many home runs, many extra base hits. Right now, he is doing that. Over the last month of play, he has a 326 batting average, 394 on base percentage, 512 slugging percentage, with 4 home runs, which is half of all of the home runs he has this season. That's only across 24 games, half his home runs this year. And also, good note for fantasy, he's stolen all 3 of his bases this season, also in the last month of play. But this has all gotten to this point in a weird way, mainly the fact that Caglione actually has less bat speed this year compared to last year, when he also has a longer swing. I talk about this all the time on this channel, but usually when a player elongates their swing, that will increase their bat speed because it gives their bat more time to generate force, generate speed as it comes through the zone. That hasn't happened. That's weird. I don't really love that at all. But with a longer swing, he's found a higher swing tilt, which means he's actually swinging up on the ball a little bit more. His attack angle has slightly increased, and this has led, at least to recently, hopefully, the solving of these bat path issues. I'm going to show you right now some rolling charts to show why I think Caglione has been more productive lately. First, here's his launch angle rolling chart. You can see his launch angle is increasing pretty sharply lately. Here's also a rolling chart of his swing tilt, again, showing that he's swinging up, getting under the ball a little bit more, in this case, which is a good thing. And lastly, here's a rolling chart of his attack angle, which again, shows that he's striking the ball at a point where he's more likely to get fly balls now over the last few weeks of play. There are still some unsustainable things about this recent hot streak and Caglione's profile in general. He's running a 430 batting average on balls in play over his last few weeks, and his whiff rate is very high, his strikeout rate is very high, both significantly higher than last season. Again, while he's elongated his swing, which could do that. But basically, no one in baseball hits the ball as hard, as consistently as Caglione. You look at his hard hit rate, his barrel rate, his average exit velocity, which I don't love. I'm going to show it here in the StatCast screenshot. he crushes the ball. Even though the bat speed's down, it's still top of the league bat speed. And another huge thing for Caglione, the platooning is over for him, mostly because the Royals don't really have any other options to hit on their entire team. He started 21 of 22 games entering play on Friday, and that includes starting against 5 of the last 6 left-handed pitchers the Royals have faced. This is still a player with elite pedigree who is an elite prospect who was rushed to the major leagues, only played 95 total minor league games. After being a two-way player at the University of Florida, there is so much star potential in Caglione's bat, and he's a guy who right now quietly is breaking out and could really sustain something special for the rest of the season. Next up on the big list, oddly, is another young player on the Chicago White Sox, Jacob Gonzalez, right now playing first base for them. He is smashing the ball in his first week and a half of Major League action. Hit his first home run last Saturday against Andrew Painter from the Phillies, and this thing was crushed. First of all, it was blessed by Mike Vassell with his magic wand, but then, man, 430 feet to the upper deck, absolute nuke. You can see his stats above. Very solid through about 10 games of Major League action, but he has the kind of profile and the kind of tools that can really sustain Major League success, which honestly, if you guys are in the prospect world and you've been keeping track of Jacob Gonzalez over the last few years, that is shocking to hear. Entering this season, it felt like he would never ever make an impact at the major league level. After being a first-round pick out of Ole Miss as a great power hitter in 2023, he sucked in the minor leagues for the White Sox. He was terrible. It looked like he was going to fall out of the league. He was never above league average in terms of WRC+. His ISO, which is isolated slugging, which takes your slugging percentage but subtracts your batting average, so only tracks your extra base hits, it was never touching 100, which is a horrible red flag for a minor league player who's supposed to have plus power. It really looked like he would never make a major league impact. Then reportedly, heading into the season, he made a big swing change. Shout out Baseball America for this amazing reporting on this. He added bat speed. He added loft to his swing. He was hitting the ball so much harder. 1088 OPS at AAA with 19 home runs and 8 stolen bases across 52 games this season before getting the call-up. His prospects avant page looked incredible, as you guys can see right here. His exit velocity to AAA also looked really good, as you guys can see right here. And he was promoted from Munetaka Murakami, who's already been out almost 2 weeks with a hamstring strain. It's going to be at least 2 to 3 more weeks with Munetaki out. So Gonzalez has a runway here to prove himself. And because the White Sox are still alternating between Andrew Benintendi and Randall Grichuk at the designated hitter spot, I think there's a chance if Gonzalez really impresses to take that job, or maybe Murakami goes to DH and Gonzalez stays at first base once he's off the injured list. I think this is a player right now and a prospect who's very underrated because of how poor those minor league results were. Also, because of how bad those minor league results were, they're really negatively impacting his projections, which look not so great. And there are a lot of fantasy baseball players out there who are just following those projections at will. So right now, I think there's a really, really good value buy opportunity on Jacob Gonzalez. Last up on the big list this week is Jordan Lawler from the Diamondbacks. Really great video here if you're looking for post-hype prospects, but Lawler is the definition of a post-hype prospect. He was ranked very highly, peaking as a top 15 prospect on each of Baseball America, MLB Pipeline, and Baseball Prospectus' list over the last few years. He has been a 2-time participant in the futures game, which sometimes is a bad sign that you're still in the minors after already being in the futures game, but again, I digress from that. He's reportedly going to be back for the Diamondbacks on Friday night, as I'm recording this video on Friday afternoon. And Saturday update, in that first game back for Lawler, he made this amazing catch in center field. Nice to see him playing defense out there, and had a huge 2-run single for insurance for them late in the game. After a fractured wrist from the first week of the season, that's knocked him out for the last 2 months. And sadly, for a player like Lawler who has shown big-time talent without any consistency, injuries have been most of the story from his professional career. That wrist fracture occurred right after he won the Diamondbacks left field job coming out of spring training. He tore the labrum in his shoulder a few years ago. He has a UCL tear in his thumb a few years ago as well. He's also had many hamstring and other soft tissue injuries over time. He just has never been able to actually play enough consistent baseball in the upper levels of the minors to feel like there was any semblance of consistent development happening here. The Diamondbacks have also treated him kind of oddly. Again, it makes sense because he hasn't performed super well, especially for what they've asked him to do. But last year they called him up as the top prospect in their system to play only sporadically, which was weird. Eventually they sent him back down to the minors, called him up September, late August when the team was out of it and they'd sold at the trade deadline, and we're playing him as shortstop and third base, which are shortstop's his natural position, shifted him to third base when Eugenio Suarez was traded, and he was so bad defensively there that they wound up benching him, giving him some DH reps, but again, just never really could get his feet wet. He switched to outfield, though, full-time this past winter, has the athleticism to do so, was playing in the Winter League, looked good doing it in spring training, won the left field job, started the year 6 for 18 with a home run and a stolen base, and bam, hit by a pitch, cut him down. Now that he's back, I think he's a little bit overlooked, still has the pedigree, big-time power speed guy. You can kind of consider this something like a very, very poor man's Byron Buxton, who it took 3 or 4 years of actually getting these chances, going back down, fighting through injuries to break out. Nowhere near the potential, I think, of Byron Buxton, who's like a 50-50 guy over his last 160 Major League games, but Lawler is a player, just for the game theory of it all, that we should not be leaving on our waiver wires right now. Now, that's the end of the big list this week, but like I told you guys at the top, here comes the breakout sections to help you in any kind of league you might be playing. And starting off with the players who are not rostered enough in shallow leagues, we're using ESPN rostership rate for this. Tyler Soderstrom, I've been telling you guys all season, it will happen. He will bounce back. Still only 77% rostered after just one of the greatest 3-game stretches I've ever seen for the Athletics hitters in Las Vegas. More games this weekend in Las Vegas if you guys play in a daily league and he's out there. Similarly, Matt Chapman, too sturdy of a veteran, too good for too long to be as bad as he was, 64% rostered. Bryce Miller looks electric since coming off the injured list for the Mariners. Looks almost all the way back to the guy we saw in 2024. Jung-Hoo Lee is the hottest hitter in baseball now, approaching a 20-game hitting streak, only 57% rostered. JJ Bleday, I'm going to shout him out every week until I see 80% rostered. 45% is not right. Michael Busch, one of the hottest hitters in baseball, 42%. Reed Detmers, how many times do I have to tell you guys to put Reed Detmers on your team? 38% with relief pitcher eligibility. That is absolute blasphemy. Another great start this past week. He's going to get on a roll. Then 2 catchers who I think should be factors in 10-team leagues. Gabriel Moreno, 36%. Dalton Rushing, 21%. Rushing right now is getting a big boost because Will Smith went on the injured list, so Rushing is now the starting catcher. I also told you guys about Bryce Eldridge last week. 11% rostered is just not good enough. And Spencer Horwitz, 14%. Whew. Spencer Horwitz is crushing the ball right now, hitting leadoff every day for a Pirates team that is so far is one of the best offensive teams in baseball. Get these guys on your teams. They're going to produce. Next, we have the closer report in the craziest closer season I can ever remember in fantasy baseball. Over the last 10 days, entering play on Friday, 42 different players have recorded at least one save. With that, only 8 have recorded multiple saves. We're seeing unprecedented sharing of closer roles right now and just ineffective closers across Major League Baseball. It's creating lots of headaches for us in fantasy baseball, which is why a guy like Jacob Latz, who I'm talking about every single week in this section, should be getting our attention. His ERA is below 2. He's striking out an above average level of hitters. He's a very sturdy closer on a 500 baseball team. In terms of all the chaos in the league right now, that's very valuable in most 12-team leagues. Same thing with Alex Lang. He's kind of erratic. The curveball can be all over the place sometimes. He can walk a lot of hitters, but 4 saves over the last 2 weeks. We can't really do anything about that. I'm really looking closely at Grant Taylor too. The White Sox just won't fully unleash him as the closer, but when we do, when we see those hints of him in the 9th inning, it looks phenomenal. In some leagues, if it's worth it, I'm stashing him for that reason. Then also, Anthony Bender looks like he might be taking the closer role from Pete Fairbanks, who's been dreadful this season for the Marlins, so keep a lookout there. And same with Elvis Alvarado in Sacramento with the A's. They haven't really had a steady closer all season long. Alvarado probably has the nasty stuff in that bullpen now with Jack Perkins moving to the rotation, so if you need a closer spec, those 2 guys, Bender and Alvarado, could be your guys. Next, we have the stash list for players either in the minor leagues or injured that it could be worth stashing on your guys' bench or in your IL spots. Starting out with some minor leaguers, Josh Baez does not stop hitting home runs for the Cardinals AAA team in Memphis. There's swing and miss in his game, but in terms of power speed player in the minor leagues right now, a player in the minor leagues who's close to the majors, who has elite, actual, legit superstar upside, he's the guy. The same goes for Cade Anderson. There's so much crowding in the Mariners rotation, but I still have to call them out every single week. And then for a lesser degree, Kalen Culpepper. These guys have all been in the stash list for weeks now, but they're all pretty close to the major leagues, so I want to keep shouting them out. Then we got Jason Dominguez, who is going to jump right into a corner outfield spot really soon, probably a few days, maybe within a week, once he's back off the injury list for the Yankees. And then just some star players who are close to returning, who maybe your league mates are sleeping on, and maybe someone dropped, and maybe they're out there. Drake Baldwin starting a rehab assignment this weekend. He's probably the best catcher in the league. Hunter Brown, also probably back in the major leagues next week. Doubt he's available, but if he is. Blake Snell had the same elbow chip procedure with the nanoscope as Tarek Skubal, so I think he actually could be back sooner than expected. Shout out to Skubal also pitching this Saturday, 5 weeks after surgery for a bone chip. That's absolutely unheard of. Then you got Francisco Lindor also playing the simulated game, probably back in about 2 weeks for the Mets. Then some other guys to keep an eye on that you could be stashing, lower key guys. Ryan Helsley is beginning a rehab assignment soon, closer for the Orioles. Mick Abel, Hurston Waldrep, also kind of sneakier. Probably more 12, 14, 15 team types of players to be stashing, but I think both of them can be really quality starting pitchers when they're healthy. Same goes to Logan Henderson. He's a tier above those last 2 guys, and I also think he's probably back sooner or maybe about the same time as those 2 guys, but that's the stash list this week. Next, we have the deep league ads. Nice deep league list this week, starting off with Hagen Smith, allegedly possibly being called up to start for the White Sox on Saturday. Haven't seen enough to put him on the big list. He also has huge command issues in the minor leagues, and also we don't know if it's going to be a long-term starting spot, but wanted to put him on your guys' radars because he might be pitching as you're watching this. Then we got Cam Smith. He's kind of trying to find ways to work out of this early season slump. Still hits the ball really hard. He's making enough contact to make that worth it. Royce Lewis back up with the Twins. We've seen Royce Lewis get hot before, but I'm really not going to buy in until we see something real happening. Walbert Urena, king of the deep league list every single week. He's been so effective this year, not giving up any runs. We kind of still saw why Urena can't really be trusted every single week in a 12-team league because the walks are out of control. Just walked 5 in a scoreless inning this past week. The whip is approaching 1.4. There's a blow up coming for him, but he's also a good pitcher. I just really want him to find more command on that sweeper, but we're just kind of circling the drain with Urena every single week. Similarly, the Cam Smith, Dylan Cruz is still doing a lot of good things under the hood despite having horrible production above it. Jake Mangum is now going to be starting every single day for the Pirates with O'Neal Cruz on the injured list. Mangum is just your classic gym rat, gritty, first in, last out, Jersey dirty every single game. It's all contact speed profile, though. Tyler Phillips on the Marlins barely missed the big list this week. Another relief pitcher moving to the starting role full time. He's a crazy guy on the mound, slap himself in the face. Not missing tons of bats, but it does look like the stuff can actually go to the rotation. So I'm keeping an eye on Tyler Phillips for next week. Paul Goldschmidt is also playing basically every day for the Yankees right now. He's hitting really well. He hits leadoff against left-handed pitchers. Like, he's actually kind of a shockingly good deep league guy right now, even as an old man. Same goes for Marcus Semien, who's put up like actually 3 weeks of quality play at the plate. So maybe Marcus Semien's having a nice old man dead fish bounce right now. Brandon Young has been messing around with his repertoire. I think I saw Lance Brozdowski say he has a new splitter. He's intriguing, but not really big list ready yet from the Orioles. Jack Perkins trying to go back from the bullpen to the rotation for the Athletics. Love the stuff. Hate the home park. Jorge Mateo and Mauricio Dubon have both performed well for the Braves this year. Dubon's performed great as mostly starter all year. Mateo has come out of nowhere to be really, really good so far. They both look like they're going to play mostly every single day now while Ronald Acuna is back on the injured list for another hamstring strain. Robert Gasser is back in the Brewers rotation. He kind of got bad luck by having to pitch in Las Vegas this week, but I've told you guys the channel a few times this year I really like his stuff. Also, 2 Canadians to close this out. Jared Young, Owen Casey. Jared Young is playing first base for the Mets every single day, at least against every single right-handed pitcher. Is showing power, is showing contact, is showing plate discipline, is hitting behind Juan Soto every single day. I picked him up this past week in a 16-team league, and I think you guys probably should as well. And Owen Casey, some good news in his contact rate is getting to more power. The Marlins have stuck with him through a cold spell, which is cool. Let's see if he can actually sustain it, though. And now to close out, I've given you guys so many players to add, so I have to give you some to drop. Starting out, this is a sad one. Ildemaro Vargas. 6 weeks, he was the best hitter in baseball. The last 6 weeks, he's now like the worst hitter in baseball. So just not a guy that we should keep on our teams, even though it was a really fun story through April and the beginning of May. Zebby Matthews come back to earth. He's not missing bats. He looks not very good. David Sandlin, my bad on that one, guys. Got shelled 2 times back to the minor leagues after I led the big list to them. I got a little excited about Sandlin. I love seeing a real heavy fastball like that misses bats in the zone. Steven Matz, I told you at the top, out of the Rays rotation. Joey Cantillo on the Guardians. I like the stuff, but he is not missing bats anymore, so there's no reason to keep him on our teams. Same goes for Randy Vasquez. Really good for the first 6 weeks. Has been really mid, aggressively mid, probably even a little bit worse than mid for the last 6 weeks. And now, for some tough decisions that could be coming down in our 10-team leagues, guys like Mookie Betts and Jose Altuve. Mookie Betts, you can easily find 10 or 12 shortstops in the league right now more productive than Mookie Betts. He probably turns around at some point. If you guys play in a very shallow league, I really don't fault you for dropping either of these guys who look like the game has just kind of passed them by a bit. But another great waiver wire video in the books. Thank you guys all so much for being with me here and putting this out on Saturday. Let's go, Knicks. You guys in the comments making fun of me for wearing the Jalen Brunson jersey for like 6 straight videos now. But you know what? It's not coming off. It might not come off the entire summer. I'm not apologizing for that. Thank you guys so much for being here. I'll see you next time.